Welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into a wild week of intelligence updates that um, really challenge that whole narrative of authoritarian invincibility you always hear about.
Yeah, the raw data from this week is just striking. We usually picture these massive state apparatuses as impenetrable fortresses, right? But the reality on the ground,
Especially when you look at their tech and internal security.
exactly, it paints a picture of severe paranoia and systemic cracks in their armor.
So let's just jump right into a glaring and frankly embarrassing vulnerability for the Kremlin. In early February 2026, a sudden Starlink shutdown completely paralyzed Russian military communications.
Right, it wasn't just some minor glitch,
No, it forced their frontline forces to literally fall back on outdated analog radios and physical cables.
which is a profound irony. I mean, you have this vast military force heavily reliant on autonomous secure networks for drone operations and logistics.
But they are critically dependent on foreign commercial technology to keep it running.
Right. Without it, their modern command and control structure effectively collapsed.
So if their frontline comms are that compromised, how is the FSB managing to coordinate these sprawling internal sweeps back home?
Barely.
Right, because we're seeing this frantic crackdown on Ukrainian-backed sabotage rings across 43 regions. They just announced 200 arrests and seized tens of thousands of SIM cards and SIM boxes.
And just to clarify for you listening, those SIM boxes are essentially hardware arrays used to bypass standard networks.
Yeah.
Operators use them to automate bulk communications.
Which in this case were coordinating fraud and terror threats.
Exactly. The domestic security apparatus is operating in overdrive precisely because the conventional military tech is faltering.
And the tactics in this shadow war are escalating in ways you rarely see outside of movies, like the incident in Yekaterinburg.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was shocking.
The FSB intercepted a saboteur, a Russian citizen acting for Ukrainian intelligence, who was targeting a defense industry leader. But during the arrest, the guy didn't just surrender.
No, he was remotely detonated by his own Ukrainian handler.
Just a staggering operational choice.
It really shows an extreme prioritization of operational security over the asset's life to make sure no interrogation could even happen. It underscores the sheer ruthlessness of the intelligence war happening within Russia's own borders right now.
And that aggressive exploitation of human assets isn't just confined to Eastern Europe. We're seeing similar vulnerabilities targeted in the Pacific.
Right, in the Philippines.
Yeah, 3 defense analysts from the Department of Defense and the Navy were just arrested. Beijing is leaning heavily on human intelligence, but what stands out is how high up the defense chain these personal connections reached.
Leaking sensitive naval resupply plans for the South China Sea.
Right.
But that aggressive external espionage is happening alongside a very messy domestic reality for Beijing. They recently bumped their 2026 defense budget by 7%.
Clearly prioritizing military expansion.
Yeah, preparing for potential regional conflicts. But at the same time, their economic growth target just plummeted to a decade's low, 4.5 to 5%.
Which creates a massive economic contradiction. When you ramp up military spending while your overall economy shrinks due to property market woes and supply chain issues.
Something inevitably has to give. You have to defund domestic programs.
And that kind of financial strain breeds internal friction, which might explain the ongoing corruption purge tearing through the People's Liberation Army.
Just in January, 2 senior generals were completely ousted. Xi Jinping seems to be prioritizing loyalty purges over immediate combat readiness.
And that brings up a really curious data point. Right on the heels of those purges, Chinese military flights over the Taiwan Strait suddenly dropped to 0.
Yeah, after a prolonged period of near-daily incursions, there was just nothing.
It makes you wonder what's driving that sudden lull.
On one hand, ripping out senior leadership almost certainly cripples operational readiness. The command structure gets paralyzed when officers are terrified of making a wrong move.
Right. Or alternatively, it might be a calculated strategic pause ahead of the anticipated meeting between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump.
It's likely a mix of both. But either way, the PLA is clearly navigating profound internal turbulence at a time when they're trying to project an image of imminent readiness.
It leaves us with a real paradox. Despite projecting outward strength and committing vast resources to defense, major global powers are actively battling systemic internal corruption.
Failing technological infrastructure.
And deep-seated paranoia. They are projecting strength outward while desperately trying to patch the leaks inward.
It's a house of cards in many ways.
It is. Which leaves you with a final lingering question to ponder on your own as we wrap up today's deep dive. As the digital and physical battlefields merge, And given this heavy reliance on vulnerable tech and shifting loyalties is the greatest threat to these authoritarian powers coming from their external enemies.
Or from the rot within their own ranks.